Today's guest is a man who defies every box society tries to put in him. From the NFL to pediatric neurosurgery, Dr. Myron Rolle, his story isn't just inspiring, it's proof that you can dominate in multiple arenas when purpose meets discipline. This isn't just a story about success. It's about sacrifice, resilience, and reinvention. Let's get into it. Dr. Rolle, what's up, man? How you doing?
How you doing? Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, you
Absolutely.
too, man.
Definitely.
Yeah, welcome to the WebbMD Podcast. I've been following your story for some time now, and really impressed. Every time I see your name pop up, man, it just makes me really proud to kind of see everything that you've been through and everything you've done so far, man. So, I'm excited to chat with you.
Thank you.
For the people that may have been sleeping, maybe have been under a rock and may have never heard of you before, can you just a brief introduction, like who you are and kind of what you do?
Sure, no problem. Well, first, I do want to say, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah.
And, I think we connected online some years ago, and I've been following your story and what you've been doing, your book, your success, how you treat your patients, the outcomes that you have. Yeah. It's all been amazing, brother. And, so I just want to say I'm very inspired and proud of you as well.
Yeah.
So the love is mutual, man.
Yeah.
People need to hear their flowers, especially brothers. So
I appreciate that.
I want to make sure everyone knew that, no doubt. But so my name is Myron Rolle. I'm from the Bahamas originally, but I left the Bahamas when I was around 2 or 3 years old, grew up in New Jersey, near Atlantic City, played football right away. Cousins Samari Rolle, Antro Rolle played football. My daddy started the Caribbean American Football League back home in the Bahamas. We go back to the Bahamas almost every spring and summer when I was being raised in America. And then around teenager years, I moved down to Florida, Central Florida, and that's kind of where I call home. But football was a huge part of my life growing up early. As I said, the family influence, and then I was good at the sport. So, whenever you're good at something, you kind of always gravitate towards it. I was like, man, I'm succeeding by like running over these kids and knocking them down and running past them. I said, maybe I got a future in this thing. I don't know, but let's see. And it just continued to rise, and my fame and my reputation continued to grow. Then scholarships came and interviews came and opportunities came. And then I ended up getting a full ride to Florida State University. And chose to go there for college. Played there for 3 years, started as a true freshman, became an All-American there, won a Rhodes scholarship, which afforded me the opportunity to study medical anthropology at Oxford University in England. So I went there for a year, came back to the States, went to the NFL, played there for 3 years, drafted 6th round, pick number 207 by Tennessee Titans, 2 years with the Titans, 1 year with the Steelers, left there, went to medical school back at Florida State University, there for 4 years, and then did my neurosurgery residency at Mass General Hospital, Harvard. Finished that in 7 years, and then did a 1-year pediatric neurosurgery fellowship at Johns Hopkins All Children's down here in Florida. And now I'm one of the attendings at Nemours Children's Hospital here in Orlando in pediatric neurosurgery. Super fired up about it. So that's a bit of the football journey, the academic journey, and now the professional vocation. In the meantime, I've been able to start a foundation and do a lot of work back home in the Caribbean, but also locally here in Central Florida around head trauma, pediatric gun safety, mental health, food security, and then also being a proud father of 4 kids, 4 young children, and
awesome,
a proud husband too. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. Your last probably 10, 15 years kind of summed up in that 2 minutes there. That's incredible. And going back to the part about kind of your family's from the Bahamas, how much of that do you think kind of instilled, your parents? It seems like every step of the way. I just finished your book, The 2% Way, and we'll talk about that. How much do you think your parents kind of pushed you along the way? Because it seemed like they were there and kind of from an educational standpoint, they really pushed that. Yeah. How much do you think that played a role in your success?
I think it was huge. I think my parents are amazing. They've been married for 54 years, and they've given me an outstanding template on how to be my own husband and father, but also instilling those core principles to allow me to make the right decisions when tough times came. Even making the decision between going to NFL or going to Oxford, I was instilled with the principle of academic excellence and prowess first before athletic excellence. And so making a decision to postpone the NFL and jeopardize and sacrifice my football career to take that road over to England rather than go to the NFL where a lot of people were telling me to go, that all came from my parents' conditioning and nurturing and the type of environment they raised me and my four older brothers in. I think they understood that the Bahamas is a wonderful place. It's the best small country in the world. I'm biased, but I'll say that. But at the same time, it's a place that doesn't have as many resources, an abundance of resources like America does. And so they knew that the opportunities we had here in America to study, to be great citizens, to lead, to be great Christian men, this was something that we could not become complacent with. And so every step of the way, they were ensuring that academics first, being a strong man of faith, thinking about other individuals who are maybe less fortunate than you, and having that spirit of service. These are all things that were sort of imbued in me and my brothers early. And I'm thankful for that, because it allowed me to have success later on. And it's allowed me as a father now to think about how I'm going to raise my children, because I've seen the work that it does in your life into the future.
Yeah. And then did you always know that you wanted to become a doctor or a neurosurgeon? Or when was that point in your lifetime? It was like, hey, this is what I want to do.
That was fifth grade, actually.
Fifth grade.
Yeah, my brothers put some black heroes in front of me. Kofi Annan, Nelson Mandela, Malcolm X, Booker T. Washington, Paul Robeson, and then Ben Carson.
Yeah.
And when I read Ben Carson's book, I was like, yeah, I like this.
Yeah.
This brother's cool. I mean, he's smooth, he's smart.
Yeah.
Separated two conjoined twins from the occipital. Both of them lived. I said, when it's time for me to stop playing football, this is what I'm going to walk into. And that was the fifth grade.
Wow. Okay. I mean, ever since then, they say, hey, this is something I want to do.
Absolutely. No question.
Yeah. And I was reading, kind of going through your book, and also I read Gifted Hands when I was kind of going through the years.
That's
and
right.
Also the Pact also. I'm not sure if you read that as well. That's the book that really got me inspired in medicine, because I always tell people that you can't become something if you can't see it. And I think it's important to just have someone that you can see, like, hey, that's what I want to be. I think that's extremely important. And then, so you went off to you went to did a couple boarding schools, right?
That's
boarding
right.
schools in high school.
Yeah.
And then coming out of high school, you were the #1 recruit prospect in the country.
Yeah.
One of the someone from ESPN asked you at one point, Dr. Rolle, what is one of the most challenging things for you? And you kind of mentioned kind of the pressure. Yeah. How did you navigate that? Because I would imagine being a #1 prospect in the whole country, there's a lot of spotlight on you. And that's a lot for kind of someone coming out of high school. How did you navigate through that?
Yeah, it was very tough. You're right. Pressure was hard because I put a lot of pressure on myself. And then I had the Bahamas looking at me to do well and succeed. So then I got a country that's looking at it for me to be successful. And then just the general, like, sort of external pressure that people would say, if you don't score 4 touchdowns in this game, you're a failure. If you don't tackle, get 8 tackles in a game and an interception, you're a failure. And that standard and expectation, could weigh on somebody. And at that time, I will say this in complete candor, I don't think that the topic of mental health was as accepted in the athletic community, athletic space. And so, speaking about pressure, I didn't really associate it with mental health, but it really did sort of stress me out in a way that I was like, man, this is hard, trying to be everything to everybody. But I would say what helped me a lot was the bond that I have with my brothers. I have 4 older brothers who are very protective, very loving, very caring, sticking close to my parents, getting into my faith, and then doing things to decompress the space around football at that time was helpful. So we would go to, like, Philadelphia 76ers games, sometimes we'll take trips, to comedy clubs, just things that get my mind off of all the rigmarole. And when they noticed that, my family, my brothers noticed that I was getting a little bit tightly wound, they said, okay, it's time to step back. And so I appreciate them for kind of stepping in when I couldn't step in for myself. Now, as a 38-year-old man, I'm like, okay, I get it. I know where I got to step and do the things. But then I needed those people to buttress the journey, and my family was there for that.
Yeah, and some people don't have that support.
Yeah.
I think that's really critical, because a lot of athletes, they may just know football or basketball and whatever sport that they're playing. Once that ends, then they just don't know what else that kind of defines them, or what else can they do with their lives. And I think you kind of knew going in, because I was reading your book and you talked about some goals that you wrote down. One goal was to become a neurosurgeon. One goal was to play in the NFL, and the other goal was to go to Oxford. Did I miss any?
No, you got them. You got all 3 of them.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I think that's really important to have goals and something that's tangible, something that you can actually just look towards and go towards and kind of achieve. Talk about a little bit about why that's important in terms of just having something that you can goals that you actually wrote down and how important that was.
Yeah, no, I think it's huge. I think there's a couple different benefits to writing down your goals. I think you get a consistent reminder about it, especially if you put it somewhere where you can see it every day. I think you're also triggering your muscle memory, your mind, you're using dexterity, using your hands, motor movement to sort of like write down what I want. And so it becomes even realer when you're using your hand and using your mind to think about what letters I'm putting to make this word, what sentence I'm putting down. Yep. All of it sort of sinks in a lot more. And then I also think putting it out there allows for the other people in your life who love you and support you, whether it be family or coaches, pastors, close friends, they can hold you accountable to that. They can say, look, you wrote this goal down. What are you doing every single day, the 2% way, or that process to reaching those goals? Because it's easy. Honestly, I will say this, Brother Webb, it's easy sometimes to quit on yourself. Because if you're in a vacuum and nobody's around, okay, I don't have to do this extra rep. I don't have to, run this extra half a mile. I can quit on this. I'm good. I don't have to, continue with that application. Nobody knows. But if you put those goals down and you have accountability partners, people who look in and say, hey, how'd you do with that? Did you finish that rep? Did you finish that mile? Did you finish that application? Did you finish this? Did you finish that? It's hard to quit on other people who are supporting you and are depending on you or relying on you. And so I think writing down those goals on paper were huge for me. And I advocate for that strongly to my mentees when I talk to them.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, in medical school, whenever I was trying to memorize, I don't know, some cycle or pathway, when I wrote it down, that just stuck in my memory. And it helped me kind of remember it and verbalize it to others, or also regurgitated on an exam. So I certainly agree that writing things down can be very beneficial. Going back to Dr. Ben Carson, gifted hands and also the 2% way, I noticed a lot of similarities. The past, Dr. Carson, when he was growing up, had a lot of anger problems, got into a couple fights, and you kind of described some of those as well. So who else in the kind of neurosurgical field were you kind of looking up to outside of Ben Carson?
Yeah, certainly Carson for sure. And you mentioned the anger part. That was huge because I've seen a lot of myself in him. I would get in fights, get detentions. Somebody would call me a racial epithet. I was throwing my hands and letting them know that's not appropriate, and I would do it physically. But obviously I matured from that, thankfully. But yeah, Dr. Carson was huge for me because I saw how he sort of transformed from that that type of youth and then into the adult that we know him today as. Keith Black was huge for me. He is the chair of neurosurgery at Cedars-Sinai. Was at UCLA for a while, Michigan man. An outstanding neurosurgeon, wrote a book also that was inspirational. And then as I moved closer to neurosurgery, I found a gentleman named Jay Storm. He's the chair of Pediatric Neurosurgery at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. I met him my first year of medical school just by chance. I told, again, this is the important thing, Brother Webb, about letting your friends and your circle know your interests. I was telling people from high school, I want to be a pediatric neurosurgeon, pediatric neurosurgeon, pediatric neurosurgeon. One of my friends in high school, their dad was a device rep at CHOP in Philly and happened to work in a pediatric neurosurgical OR suite one time, mentioned to the chair, Jay Storm, that I was a classmate of his daughter and, I was interested and maybe they can create some connection. Jay Storm calls me up. I talk to him. Boom. Next thing you know, I'm in Philly at his lab doing low-grade glioma research, basic science research in the morning, and then go in the afternoon doing Chiari malformations with him in the OR as a medical student. And then that relationship just blossomed into him being my full-on mentor, somebody who has gone to every major event of my life. Seriously, he's been to my wedding, the birth of my kids, my graduation from medical school, graduation from residency, graduation from fellowship. This guy's been with me throughout it all. We go on vacation together. So I would say Keith Black, Ben Carson, Jay Storm, those guys have been true rock stars for me in my journey for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so college at Florida State University.
That's right.
Yeah.
Shout out. I just had to show you. I had to come represent the alma mater.
There you go. There you go. I guess my big question is athletics, and especially athletics to athletics as well as academics. Academics to a point where you can be competitive for medical school. Mm-hmm. How was that, and how did you manage to work through that? Because I know that can be very challenging just for someone who's just doing pre-med by themselves.
Yeah.
But if you're an athlete, you got to practice and work out, and tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you this as straightforward as I can, Brother Webb, because I think a lot of it goes back to being a self-advocate. And really letting the people around you know what your goals and your dreams are. When I got to Florida State, just like when I was getting recruited by Michigan or USC, Texas, Notre Dame, Georgia, I was telling all these coaches that I want to be a neurosurgeon. I want to be a Rhodes Scholar. These are goals of mine. How can you make that happen? And they will come to me with a plan of, okay, so you're going to go to practice this day and you can miss this part of practice, but you got to be here for they will come together and find a way. You have some of these athletes that walk into these athletic departments who are like, look, I just want a ball, right? I want to get to the league, which is nothing really wrong with that. But their academic side of things are just being sort of pushed through with courses that the coaches know they can pass, with academic advisors that may help them a little bit more in this certain degree. They're not really hearing that guys want to do pre-med. So when they heard that from me, they sort of carved out a way forward for me. And then going to Florida State, it wasn't really like known as like a Stanford or a California, Cal Berkeley, as like, a public school that's, high in the U.S. News and World Report rankings. Mm-hmm. And so having someone like myself who can be a poster child for your academic success in your school, because we do have some really great, strong academic features, but they weren't highlighted because they were overshadowed by how great our athletics were. They were like, here's somebody who we can use to put on billboards, commercials. We can have him get a Rhodes Scholarship. So it could be beneficial to the university, and it could be beneficial to Rolle because he's trying to do all these things in his life too. So it was sort of like a symbiotic relationship where I was getting something, they were getting something, and I let it be known that this is what I'm trying to do. Something else that was very helpful, Brother Webb, to me was I had teammates that protected me, right? So I had some teammates that I loved dearly. These are my boys. They were a little different, right? I mean, they, golds in their mouth, and the golds don't come out. Locks, gerbo jeans, long white tees, listen to Trick Daddy and Plies, and the same words like jit. And I was like, what are y'all talking about? But these guys were some of my best dudes because they protected me in the sense of, hey, Rolle, we're going out tonight. Oh, I'm coming. They're like, no, you got to study, man. You got to test tomorrow, right? That's what you said. I said, yeah, I do. Okay, you staying here. I'm like, oh, are you serious? Yeah. And I was a little upset at first because I'm like, oh, they don't want to hang out with me. They don't want to be my boys. But they were really looking out for me and making sure that I was going to succeed in any way possible. When I won the Rhodes Scholarship, all the boys on the team got me in the middle of the circle, put their hands on me in the middle, like when we break the huddle, and they prayed for me and just showed me so much love. And that's, I don't know if I can get that from any other school, but I know I got it at Florida State. Yeah. And that's why I was so happy and proud to make that decision, because it worked out in many different ways. Yeah,
that's awesome. I think, like you said, it's important to kind of verbalize to everyone kind of what your goals are and what you plan to achieve. And this person may be able to help you in this aspect. And it's just a kind of a team effort to kind of get you to where you want to go. Was it a culture shock going to Florida State? Coming from you came from New Jersey right before that.
That's right. I had to put my glasses up like this, tuck my shirt in. Yeah, I'm like, man, I was listening to like Mos Def and Talib Kweli, some of the northern stuff. Yeah, and I get down there, I'm like, who is T-Double-D? Y'all keep talking about Trick Daddy. I was like, what are we doing, man? And by the time I finished there, I could do all the dances. I could rap all the songs. Yeah. And the guys like to do freestyles in the locker room. So, again, this is my way of trying to figure out how to do this, man. I was going on YouTube and, like, figuring out how to freestyle. Like, put some instrumental beats on, and I learned. And then when it was time for me to come up in the locker room to rap, they were like, oh, Rolle can do it. I'm like, yeah. Y'all didn't know I practiced this. 2%, baby, 2% wave. So, it was definitely a culture shock. But, after getting down here to Florida, I loved it. That's why I haven't left. And those guys became, again, my best friends. Mm-hmm. They walked to my wedding. Yeah. We traveled together. We reunion together. We vacation together. Yeah. So there's something different about that brotherhood of football that has really connected us on a different kind of level, where I've had this question asked me before, Dr. Rolle, do you like your neurosurgery colleagues or do you like your football teammates better? And I was like, there's no shade to my neurosurgical colleagues, but the locker room and the conversations, the jokes, the the camaraderie, that is something that I truly missed, and that can never be replicated, not by any other field, in my opinion, that I will walk in my life.
Yeah, that's very important to have kind of that brotherhood to kind of get through things together. And that's the reason why I chose orthopedic surgery, just because, that brotherhood, camaraderie of people coming together. And I felt that in orthopedic surgery.
Yeah.
What was the most challenging thing for you at Florida State? What would you say?
Oh, man. Most challenging thing at FSU, I'd say, was, we didn't win a lot.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we were 7-6, 7-6. My last year we were 9-4, much better. So that was tough at first, I think. Maybe being away from home, not being in the Bahamas, not being in Jersey, that was a little difficult at times as well. But honestly, I think I loved FSU so much, and I appreciated it because you're in the Big Bend area, you're in Tallahassee. So I was able to step outside of the campus and go to the Capitol and meet Jeb Bush and Charlie Crist and Rick Scott, these governors and other lawmakers who would eventually help me sort of push my foundation efforts forward. I wanted to work with foster kids. I wanted to work with Seminole tribe members down in Okeechobee, Florida, at Pemieta Amahaga, one of their charter schools down there. They fostered all of that because they knew I was an athlete, a student athlete. They knew I represented the school well, and they're like, what can we do to help you achieve success? And so I think even though we didn't win a lot my first 2 years, freshman and sophomore year, the benefits I got from FSU has made it, had made me bleed garnet and gold, and actually sort of was the impetus of me going back for medical school, because I said, if this school treated me so well in undergraduate, I think I can get my medical education here too and have success, and that's what we found.
Yeah, you mentioned about the being a poster child. Did that bother you at all? When I think about, the medical field and African Americans, especially in orthopedic surgery, is like 1.9%. You know what it is for neurosurgery?
I don't.
It's probably less than
probably
that.
something like similar, or less, yeah.
So, but whenever I think about, let's say you have a program that has 30 residents, or maybe one or two African American residents or physicians, and it seems like a lot of times the poster child is that African American person for the program. Did that bother you? Did you have any, or did you think that was beneficial?
Nah, brother. Nah, it didn't bother me. I'm like, y'all want to put me here? I'll show you how great I am and how great my parents raised me to be. I understand what you're saying. The sentiment is absolutely real. It's something you have to be sensitive to and understand for sure. But if they open that door just a little bit, I'm going to kick that thing open. And I'm going to kick it open so well that you'll look at us and me and you as not just like a one-off, like, oh, this is a one-of-one person. No. There's others who look and can do just what Dr. Webb does, what Dr. Rolle does, and we can sort of pave that way and sort of allow for that proverbial door of that theater to open up so other people can get on stage and be world players too. And that's what I take advantage of that. I'm like, look, put me on everything you want, and know that when a patient or administrator sees this Black pediatric neurosurgeon having successful outcomes and treating his patients well, getting great scores, being loved by staff, that can happen if you give us an opportunity. And the next person to come up behind a Dr. Webb or Dr. Rolle can do the same thing. And so I look at that as a chance and opportunity that they wouldn't have given before. Slightly open that door, let's bust it wide open.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. And it was really at FSU where your defensive coach kind of gave you the idea of 2% way.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about that? And, I just read your book, man, and whenever I read a book, I'm always, what can I take away from this to kind of make myself a better person, and how can I help the next person better themselves as well? And I'll tell you that when I took away from this book is that when people think about the medical field, pre-med student, it's 14 years or 17 years, 15 years to become a neurosurgeon or orthopedic surgeon, spine surgeon. They look at this big picture and they just get discouraged by that. But what I took away from your book is that if you break it up and just work on a little bit of thing, or 2% of your goal at a time, and then constantly work towards that goal, is that kind of your thought process? Okay.
Yes, sir. So my coach you mentioned is Mickey Andrews. He's from Ozark, Alabama. Played for Paul Bear Bryant at University of Alabama. Is in the Alabama State Hall of Fame for his football exploits, and was my D coordinator and also my defensive back coach. So not only was he coaching the whole side of the ball, he was coaching my specific position. So we're very close. I often tell people he's like probably like one of the first white guys I loved. Like I told him I loved him, and he's amazing, just amazing guy, and someone very close to me now, even to this day. he wanted us to get 2% better every day in practice because he knew that we were going to be competing against the Florida Gators, the Clemson Tigers, Virginia Tech Hokies. These are great teams, Miami Hurricanes, who are going to go out and give us their best shot because we're Florida State. And if we did not take small incremental growths of improvement every day, then we would be behind. And he wanted us to take those small bites of just practicing on catching the ball correctly, or getting in our stance better, or using our hands violently to finish a tackle. If we'd worked on those small steps, then we can add up all of those growths, and it can lead to us being a better athlete, better player, better team eventually. And I love that, because what it did for me was sort of quiet down the noise of, well, Dr. Rolle, or not at the time, I was just Myron, but Myron, you have to got to be an All-American. You got to get drafted first round. You got to do all this stuff. Scouts were on the sideline watching us play. And so I was like, oh, that's so distracting. So many things going on. But if I just lock in on that 2% of growth of improvement, then it'll be better for me in the long run. And so Coach used to go to the whiteboard after practice and write up, Rolle, how better did he get today? And the guys would vote, oh, Rolle got 2% better today. He was hustling, run to the ball, communicating. He got that interception late in practice, did a good job. I took that mindset, that ideology, extrapolated to life. And so that, like you were saying, any goal that you have, a task that may seem daunting, big, challenging, whether it be a fitness goal, whether it be calling your mother more, your parents more, having more conversations with them, being more communicative, being more punctual, whatever small goal it is or large goal, focusing on the journey and the process of just improving a little bit at a time, one small step, that quiets everything down, allows you to focus and lock in, keeping the main thing. And it also gives you that reward from the limbic system. The limbic lobe, one of the 6 lobes in the brain. So that's that reward pathway that produces that dopamine, and it allows you to have that euphoric good feeling that I've done something well, I've accomplished this day, I won this day. It gives me the impetus to move forward. There's enough bad things in the world that you could turn on the news and see to get distracted, to get depressed, and get downtrodden. But if you're sort of like, look, this is my goal, this is what I want to get to, and I have an accountability buddy to help keep me in check, and I can stay on this 2% goal, this 2% pathway, look back 6 months from now, a year from now, and say, look how far I've grown, look how far I've gone. And that's a process that I think that young people, older people, black, white, foreign, domestic, it doesn't matter who you are. I think it's very versatile and has some great utility in personal, professional, spiritual walks, just personal developments, whatever it is you want to do. So I had fun writing that book, and I appreciate honoring the legacy of Coach Mickey Andrews and instilling that in me as my football coach in college. And now I've lived on and taken that to all aspects of my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the good thing is that you just don't have to be an athlete or in medical field. I mean, any profession, whether you're a business owner, whether you're finance, I mean, you can use that to kind of help you kind of reach your goals. And I think it's very applicable to everyone.
Yeah, definitely.
The first time you heard about being a Rhodes Scholar, was that Bill Bradley?
Yeah, high school, Bill Bradley.
Yeah.
You did read the book, brother.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I read it. Yeah, it's a good book,
that,
man.
baby. Appreciate that,
Yeah. So, I remember you, where you saw him on he had a, what is that called? A little statue.
He had a statue.
Yeah. He had he's a Rhodes Scholar.
That's right.
For those that, may not know what a Rhodes Scholar, it's extremely competitive. The acceptance rate is about 1%. They take 32 students every year, just like there are 32 NFL teams. About 2,500 to 3,000 people apply every year.
Yeah.
Really competitive, and they look at the near perfect GPA, leadership roles, history of community service, and tell us a little bit about your experience being a Rhodes Scholar and studying in Oxford, and what would you say you took away from that?
Yeah, no, definitely. So yeah, you're right. The genesis of it was in high school. I went to a boarding school in Princeton, New Jersey, the Hun School of Princeton, and it's right next to Princeton University, Jadwin Gym, where that big statue, mural, big celebration of Bill Bradley's career, being the best basketball player in the country at an Ivy League school like Princeton, then going on and play for the Knicks, and being a U.S. Senator, and even having to bid for the presidential candidacy at one point. He became a hero to me. Just like Ben Carson became a hero, Bill Bradley was that guy too. And I thought to myself, once I got to college, this is something I wanted to pursue. So I made it known to all the schools recruiting me, like I said earlier, that a Rhodes Scholarship was something I wanted in my future. How can you help me get there? And so, the Rhodes Scholarship was great, man. Florida State needed me to win that scholarship because my president of my school, TK Weatherall, said to me and to my family, look, you have the school's academic reputation riding on your back right now. So you got to win this scholarship, brother.
Gotcha.
It's like, I was like, ooh, pressure again.
Yeah.
but it worked out. And so I had to go through some interviews internally at Florida State to be qualified for my school, my institution, to put me forward to the Rhodes committee for evaluation. And so I went through several mock interviews, did well on those, had a 1,000-word personal statement, did well. What the Rhodes Trust is really looking for is somebody who is willing, able, and enthusiastically wants to find a social injustice in the world and change it, and how Oxford is going to help propel them to these new heights of being a leader like Bill Bradley, Bill Clinton, Rachel Maddow, General Wesley Clark, Chris Christopher, Cory Booker, Susan Rice, all these individuals. So that's what they wanted to see. So you had to write your statement sort of curtailed to that vision that they have for their scholars or their future awardees. Once I once I was selected as a finalist, it was the same day that my football team was playing University of Maryland. And we were away, so we weren't in Tallahassee. So I had to go to Birmingham, Alabama for the interview. Our team was playing in College Park, Maryland. I sat down in an interview with about 6 judges, and they asked me questions about my resume, about my future. I answered all the questions, thankfully well. Got a wink by one of the judges when I walked out. I said, okay, I like that. I like my odds here, baby. Overcoming the odds. I like it. Plug. So I walked out of there feeling good. They came out, said that I was the winner, and then I got a private plane from Alabama to College Park, got into the game around the second quarter, had like 3 tackles, but we were blowing out Maryland. We were beating the brakes off of them. I think we beat them like 37-3. But it was a great game, and it was a great day, great moment. My teammates doused me with water and everything, and then I go over to Oxford and study medical anthropology at St. Edmund Hall. One thing I realized being over there in England, man, was like how old that country is, how young America is. I was like sitting on steps that were built in 1210. I was like, what is going on here? But it was fun. It was fun to get out of the athletic bubble and just be a student for once, and then meet people from Lusaka, Zambia, Cairo, Egypt, Perth, Australia, who have now become my friends. And I say those places because I've been to all those places, and I travel to my friends and sort of get out to the world because of that. It's been amazing. It was a really awesome experience, man.
Yeah, and then before pursuing that, you had to make a decision, big decision. And that decision was to either go into NFL or take a year off and go to Oxford, or go into NFL. I'm pretty sure that that was really challenging for you. And what did your parents kind of, when you first went to them and told them, say, hey, I'm thinking about these 2 paths, what were their response?
My parents were very supportive of going to Oxford. They were very supportive. They didn't budge because they've always said the word student before athlete was more important. And so they were on it right away. They said, look, you can always come back to America, stay in shape while you're over there in England, and then the NFL's not going anywhere. You'll get drafted. You're already playing well. Your cousins are there. They know your pedigree. They know who you're coached by, Bobby Bowden and Mickey Andrews. You'll be fine. There was a large contingency of people that said, Myron, you ought to go to the NFL and strike while the iron's hot. NFL doesn't stand for National Football League. It stands for not for long. And so if you don't go now while your window's here, it may close and you may never, play long or play for a big contract or get that Pro Bowl or Super Bowl that you want. And so I had to sort of weigh both of those kind of conversations that I was having and then actually have a conversation with myself. Had that introspection, that prayer, that sort of like quiet time where I said, this is really what I should do and what I want to do. And how will this not only benefit my future as a pediatric neurosurgeon and as a community leader, but how will it help other people make similar decisions when it comes to a crossroads of, do I do something for money right now, or do I do something that's going to build and create and make me a leader and allow me to serve and allow me to sort of make waves in the momentum of my generation today. And, I'm thankful that people have used my story as just that decision, that branch point where it's hard to do when people are saying go this way, but you take the road less traveled. I'm glad that people have, sort of looked at my journey in that respect, but it was a hard decision. I finally came to the choice to go to Oxford. And I stayed in shape while I was over there in England. One of my brothers came over with me. He trained me. We would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning before lecture and before classes, tutorials, and we'd go and put on a weight vest and work out and stay in shape. Played a little rugby as well. Try to stay away from the scrum as much as possible because they don't wear those pads, as you know, so can't hit people like you can in the NFL. But came back and went to the Senior Bowl, went to the Combine, had a pro day. got drafted in the 6th round, much later than I was anticipated. It was supposed to be 1st or 2nd round. My cousins are telling me, hey, Myron, you run fast, you can be a late 1st round guy. All my scouts and all my GMs are telling me this. But then I dropped to the 6th round. That's the 3rd day. That's waiting a long time. With safeties, that's a position I play, strong safety. These guys who I knew I was better than. I had better stats in college. I had better metrics than them. But the sentiment was I was not serious about football because I left America to go to England. And so if they invested a lot of money in me as a 1st or 2nd round pick, $20 million guaranteed, $30 million guaranteed. If something got hard in the NFL, would I pick up and leave and go to medicine or go to politics or go to the community and do something else? These other guys need football. They'll run through a wall to do this. But you, Myron, you got other options. You don't really need this. And so we're not going to invest a lot of time or energy or effort into you because you got other things you want to do. So shaking that stigma was very difficult when I got back to the league. And it certainly was a sacrifice and one of the things that I anticipated that I may have received if I made this choice of going to Oxford instead of the NFL. But if I had to make the choice again tomorrow, I'd make the same choice.
Yeah, and I think you made a really wise one too, because they talk about the average career length of an NFL player is about 3 years.
That's right. So
you have to have something that you do after that.
Yeah.
Did that influence your decision at all?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, I knew I wanted to be a neurosurgeon, as I told you, reading Gifted Hands early, knowing that this could be my pathway. I didn't want to end up with chronic concussions and the ability to not understand, think cognitively through things, have brain fog. I have some teammates right now, Brother Webb, who, they can't remember their kids' names and they're younger than me, 35, 36 years old. They're relying on substances or pain medications to sort of get them through the day. Also, they're struggling with their identity. I mean, their identity was the helmet they put on and how people felt about them. And now they're sort of lost and trying to figure out what to do in that purpose. And so I knew that my purpose was beyond football. Yes, I would have loved to play longer. Yes, I would have loved to have better stats. Yes, I would have loved to, sack Tom Brady and do all these wonderful things. But it didn't work out that way. And maybe, just maybe, it was God closing that door in the NFL to open this door to medicine while I have good hands, dexterity, don't have chronic traumatic encephalopathy or concussions or chronic migraines, things I got to worry about or deal with, while I'm still young and healthy, to be able to save lives now in the operating room as a pediatric brain surgeon. So I think it all worked out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason. Everything that we, whether you get rejected from medical school or whether you fail a test or whatever it is, I've always believed that everything happens for a reason. When you were at FSU and then you went to Oxford and then NFL, what was the biggest thing that surprised you about NFL?
Well, I think the NFL was very, very businesslike. You heard that a lot, but as a 6th round pick, you're looking at your reps and your opportunities as sort of like every time I'm on the field, this could be my last time with this team or on this field or with this, this unit that's running right now. And so there's a lot of stress and pressure that goes on to every single decision that you make. The guys who are 1st or 2nd round picks, they have a longer leash. Coaches can tolerate them making 1 mistake, 2 mistakes, 3 mistakes. 6th round guy, 207 pick, who was in England studying and punting on the Thames River and eating fish and chips and bangers and mash and wearing a cape like Harry Potter. They're like, yeah, nah, this guy makes a mistake. Let's get him out of here. Let's get him back to England. Let's ship him across the Atlantic Ocean again. So every rep, I was like, man, this is it. I got to go. Like, I'm going hard, 100%.
Yeah.
And then every day I got to work, I go to my locker, and I'm looking to the left and right, and I'm like, okay, this guy wasn't here yesterday. This guy was here yesterday. Cool. Next day, this guy is not here yesterday. What is going on? I mean, just it's a revolving door.
Wow.
It's an absolute business. You see guys come in, 6 guys every week to work out, to train, and they're trying to take your spot. And you're like, man, I just have to keep grinding, keep going. So that business type of that business sort of facet of the NFL was absolutely real. And it's something that was much different than college, because in college, we're going to the barbershop together. We're going to Waffle House together. We're, going and eating at the training table together. We are, at the cold tub and recovering together. Like, we're doing things together, Bible study together, all these things as teammates, because we're the brothers who are the representation of the Florida State football team, and we are friends off the field, and we do things off the field. We live together too. And the NFL was like, maybe you have 2 or 3 guys who you kind of kick it with and you go eat with and things like that. But most guys are going home to their kids, their wives. They're grown men with real things they're doing. And you don't get too close to dudes because it may be gone tomorrow, and that relationship may be fractured just because of the business nature of the sport. So I think that was the biggest difference. The speed, the physicality of the game, that really wasn't too much different for me because I'm a bigger guy anyway, and I had trained with NFL athletes since I was in high school, just again, given the fact that Myron Rolle was an all-pro and I go and work out with him. So I knew what it was like to test the speed. And at Florida State, you're playing against the best and the fastest. So that wasn't it. It was just how cutthroat the business was.
Yeah. And how common was it to come across or meet someone in an NFL that had alternate plans, or like, hey, I'm here, I'm playing football in the NFL, but hey, this is what I want to do next. How many times did you see that?
Not very often. And especially when I played. It was, matter of fact, even when I played, I tried my best to like lower my interest outside of football because I didn't want to be labeled as a guy who, again, didn't care, didn't want to be there. And so, dudes kind of kept it a little bit more quiet. Now you're seeing more guys speak up. Colin Kaepernick, for instance, he's one that comes to my head. And after him and others who talk about getting involved in business ventures and opening up stocks and starting new businesses. And, a couple guys want to go to law enforcement. They've talked about that very clearly. Some guys talked about going into politics. And now the NFL is trying to embrace that kind of diversity of thought and that the ability for these athletes to get out into the community and sort of be a good ambassador for the shield. One thing they always told us, protect the shield, protect the shield, protect the shield. That is the biggest thing that matters to the National Football League. And if you can do that by going out in the community and talking about your interests in books or in education or law enforcement, business, whatever it is, breast cancer awareness, whatever, they love that. It wasn't happening as much. I remember, I'll give you a quick story. In 2011, it was a lockout season. We weren't getting back to Nashville to camp, at the scheduled time. I was selected by President Bill Clinton to travel to the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda with him and Ashley Judd and Jeff Gordon and a few other young leaders, Lauren Bush, Usher, and a few others, to talk about and advocate for better awareness around sexual violence in women in East Africa. And this was like our big mission. We wanted to do this. And I remember going over there. It made a lot of news and headlines that I was over there with these individuals, with President Clinton. And then I came back to the States, went to camp, and I'm stretching in lines. And, my head coach comes up to me, Mike Munchak, and he goes through everybody and is talking about, what kind of blitz we're going to run. And, I love the way you, got off the blocker and you forced to contain. And then he gets to me, he's like, well, how's Bill Clinton? Tell me about that time. And I'm like, oh, man, you talked to football about them. And he's talking to me about this outside stuff. And I was like, oh, man, I kind of wish he would have talked to me about football, too, because I had something to say. But now I look back on it, I think he was honored to have the opportunity to ask me about President Clinton and the work that I did over there in East Africa. But at the time, I was like, oh, I really wish I can just be an athlete, be a baller, and not have to worry about the outside stuff. So it's a long answer for your question, but nevertheless, I would say that guys kept it quiet early on my career and early on when I'm thinking about it. But now it's a little bit more prevalent for dudes to sort of talk about their outside interests because I think it has a mutual beneficial capacity to the NFL.
Yeah, and then medical school at Florida State. Did you consider any other specialty besides? I know you were going in and say, "Hey, neurosurgery," but
hey, I worked on the spine too a little bit. I do like your spine. I see what you do out there, man. Your T lifts or A lifts. I was all neurosurgery, all in, all the way in, man. I mean, if there was, I would say if there was another surgical specialty, no offense, brother.
Yeah,
I can be real with you, right? If there was another surgical specialty that I think is just fascinating because they're so creative, is plastic surgery. Especially when we work with them with cranial synostosis and putting heads back together and reshaping the head. I mean, they're just like, okay, Dr. Rolle, make this cut, make this cut. I'm like, how do you see that? Like their mind, their vision to see how to like contour the head so it looks more normal. I just think it's fascinating. So that was the only one I gave a little bit of a thought to, but for the most part, baby, I was all in.
Okay. And then your medical school, and then you went off to do a residency at Harvard University. Both medical school as well as residency. How did going to Oxford as well as just being in the NFL, how did that prepare you for medical school?
Yeah, I think it prepared me for medical school, and even now, as an attending a fellow and then now attending, I think Oxford showed me how to take a large amount of information and distill it down and take out the most important parts of that information so that it can be useful and functional for the task that I need to do. That's been very helpful. I learned that from my tutors at Oxford, from my professors, from my colleagues who are around me, and that's something that's stuck with me. Football has helped me prepare for medical school, for residency at Harvard, and fellowship at Johns Hopkins, and now attending here in Orlando. Just with knowing how to communicate, knowing how to be a team player, knowing how to overcome adversity, mitigate pressure, being adaptable and flexible. When COVID hit, I went from being a neurosurgeon, neurosurgery resident as a PGY 3, I believe it was, to being in the ED and helping out people who just needed, more bodies to sort of intubate folks, flip people prone, call for CT scans, do all the things necessary to try to just be a part of the team. If I wasn't flexible and adaptable as an athlete, like when I was on the field, fourth down, fourth quarter, man-to-man is not working, we need to go to a zone coverage, how can I be flexible to get my mind from being locked into this one player to now covering more of a zone? That sort of training and traits shone through when it was time to flip the script for COVID and to be useful to those folks. So I think there's such bleed over into my life professionally as a scholar and now as an attending with my life in Oxford and my football life, that when I talk to young people, I say, I know it seems like there are seasons in life that you go through in these phases, but trust and believe you can take things that you've gotten from these prior seasons of your life and bring them with you to help you have fulfillment and have success and continue to thrive forward. You don't have to sort of reinvent the wheel when you get to a new station of your life and say, okay, I'm a brain surgeon now I'm going to do everything differently. No. Use those same traits that got you there that make you feel comfortable in your zone so you can get to that right flow state and you can be successful not only for your own vindication, but also because you have patients relying on you, your patients and patient families.
Yeah, and was that a hard transition, kind of going from everything that you had went through to medical school and then starting as an intern? Because you talked about in your book a little bit of, the spotlight was on, right? Yeah. So if you were suturing in the OR and say, hey, what's wrong with that knot right there? Or you maybe stumbled with the forceps and they may not say something to someone else, but it's Myron Rolle, so they may, give you a little bit more hassle for that. How was that transition?
Yeah, that was tough. That was tough for sure. And some people even said to me, when I was interviewing for residency, some program directors saying, how are you going to feel starting at the bottom now, right? Because you were an NFL player, you're probably more successful than the chief resident who's going to be yelling at you to make your knots sharper or to see that consult quicker or to, tidy up your note better. How are you going to deal with that? And I said, look, it's about being humble and it's about understanding the process of what they're looking for. I've gone through a structure where I was a rookie. I was a rookie before in the NFL. I was a freshman, the first person there as a college student, and there were seniors there who were barking commands and wanted the most out of me. Now I have to raise my level to meet that. I'm also not a small guy either. 6'2", 230 pounds. It's easy kind of to see me. I'm hard to miss. And so if I make a mistake, it's that football player made that mistake. The one everyone's talking about, he made that mistake. Look, let's compare ourselves to what Dr. Rolle is doing. And so that was a bit of a pressure for sure. That was stressful, no doubt about it. But my answer to that was the 2% way, kind of working through these steps so I could give them nothing to talk about, right? I'm going to be prepared for this case. I'm going to be early for rounds. I'm going to be sharp with my knots. If I have to go and work in the surgical skills lab with, one of the general surgery chiefs, I will do that every night until I feel comfortable working under a microscope. Suturing, in small, tiny spaces of, using, both hands in surgery, making sure that I'm a balanced surgeon. All of these things that I knew was necessary to be technically gifted and talented, I was going to work on it just like I worked on my backpedaling in the football field. So again, I just mentioned earlier, there's aspects of your life that can be pulled into what you're doing currently, and that sort of focus and discipline of trying to master my craft came from football, and that allowed me to, make it through that residency and do it well.
Yeah, and one of the things you talked about, because when people look at you, they may think that, hey, Dr. Rolle, he's had so much success, he's accomplished a lot. Like, what does he struggle with? And you talked about that in your book about VP shunts, and about that you struggled as was it an intern?
Yeah, intern.
Doing VP shunt. So you sought out some mentors. You I forgot the surgeon's name.
Ben Worf.
Yeah, Ben Worf.
Yeah.
Who and just use that 2% way to kind of better yourself, and talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, VP shunts, they were the bane of me in the beginning, man. Yeah. I could not understand the layers of the abdomen as I was trying to get into the peritoneal space, because that's the distal part of where the catheter goes. The cranial aspects of it, I kind of got that a little bit, and tunneling down underneath the skin, over the clavicle, and down to the belly. I could understand that a bit, but I just could not figure out how I can access the peritoneal cavity so this can be a successful shunt. Shunts fail when you're fiddling around with it too long, when it's outside the body too long, when you're, it could break if you're manipulating it too strongly, so there's all these sort of risks going into it. And I wanted to be swift and sharp, and I just could not get it. I recognize, again, humbly, that I was not sharp at this particular procedure. And so I had to identify ways that I can get myself 2% better. Watching videos, speaking to my, at the time, girlfriend, now wife, about the procedure, and so that she can understand it, like a layperson, she can get it because I'm talking to her about it. Watching videos, going to our academic medical library and sort of figuring out how these other experts are doing it, looking at journals, talking to Dr. Ben Worf, who has created multiple ways on how to do shunts correctly, and he has actually a novel way of how to be shunt free with something called endoscopic third ventriculostomy with choroid plexus cauterization, actually burning the structure that creates CSF in the brain. But anyway, talking to him about it, because he's done a million shunts. And so like, how do you do this? What are you looking for? How can I get better in this? And spending an hour on the phone with him, then visualizing what I'm going to do during this case. I'm in the bathroom, I'm showering before getting to the hospital, and just like I would shower and think to myself about where I'm going to be on the field when it's third and long and we're playing cover 2 and where's the receiver going to be, I'm thinking about the same thing. Where is the anesthesia going to be? Where is the table going to be set up? Where is my scrub tech going to be? Where's the circulating nurse going to be? How am I going to position myself? What instruments do I need to make this right, make this work well? Seeing it through before I even do it. Play the play like 4 or 5 times in my mind. That was my 2% process, and then it became my best surgery that I can do. And as a pediatric neurosurgeon, I know this is a case that I'm going to continue to do all the time. So I know I had to perfect it, and the 2% way helped me get there.
Yeah, a lot of similarities from playing ball to just the medical field and being a neurosurgeon. It's the procedures, surgeries that you do. Medical education, I mean, there's certain specialties, surgery, neurosurgery, orthopedic surgery, can be very malignant, in the residency and training. Why do you think that is, and did you experience any of that? You kind of spoke very highly of your residency program.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was a great program. So no, we were a gentleman's program, thankfully. Okay. We were pretty good. Yeah. But I honestly, I think it's medical training is difficult. Yeah. People are tired. Yeah. People are frustrated by maybe poor outcomes, by a family life that may be unstable or unstructured. And so I think a lot of times it's not so much because I hate this person or I dislike you, the resident, if I'm the chief or I'm the program director talking to you. It's more so I have things going on in my life and stressors around me, and I don't know how to channel that and talk through that. And I haven't seen therapy about how to compartmentalize the issues that I'm having with my office or my own practice, and I sort of project it onto you. And then you sometimes feel like this is a personal attack. And I try to tell my young mentees, I have this group called the Honor Roll. It's a bunch of young black men who are interested in medicine, about 13 or 12 or 13 of these guys. And I tell them all the time, look, you're going into residency, if somebody's talking to you a certain kind of way, or, you feel like you're being targeted, they're always asking you, pimping you with questions and things like that. I said, one, always be ready and prepared. Anticipate that they're going to ask that question. So even if they don't ask it, if they go around the room and they don't know, and then they ask you, boom, you got it, right? Even if it's not asked to you directly initially. So always be prepared. But also, don't look at it personally, right? Like, try to distill and take the coaching from that and then use that to better yourself, because at the end of the day, it's about if you're going to get through here, right? Like if you look back 30, 40 years from now and you say, man, I let that program director, I let that chief resident talk me out of this residency, man, you're going to look back and then say, how did I do that? How did I let someone else who's not God ordained, who's not God himself, dictate my future because I let them get to me? No. Brush that off, move forward. And if it becomes sort of abrasive and sort of almost like harassment in a way, then there are avenues that hospital has to sort of figure out a way where you guys can both coexist and you can do your thing, whether go to HR or the administration or somebody above those people. Use those resources and don't feel, especially for us, especially for people of color, I'm just going to say this very bluntly, sometimes we are so we feel so blessed and fortunate to be in Harvard or to be in these spaces that we sometimes think, well, I guess I just got to take this.
Yeah.
I guess this is just like a part of the process. When your colleagues are saying, no, this is not a part of the process. I will talk and air my grievances to HR, to my support team, and sort of make sure that things are working the way I like it to work, and I don't have to suffer. Like, you don't have to suffer. There's people, other individuals, yourself, me, we're available as mentors to these young people who are coming through, that you can talk about these issues with, that we can maybe intervene for you on your behalf without you going there and putting your neck out there and feeling like, oh, I'm going to be targeted for some sort of retribution. Maybe someone else can speak as my representative to these individuals where I don't got to get involved in the muck. I'll let somebody else who's, got a little bit more cachet or juice around the hospital or in medicine in general to talk up for me. And so that was something that I had to learn, and I'm glad I did. And, I tell my mentees all the time that this is an important part of the process, but do not let anyone stop your vibe from your ultimate goal. That's what you want. You've wanted this. Cannot let someone else take you off that track. That's not becoming of a true king.
Yeah, that's some great advice. You just finished your training.
Yeah,
congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, attending now. Yeah, how's it feel?
Feels good. Yeah. It feels good to finish that long road. It also feels good to get a pay increase too, brother.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna be real.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I be real with you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Time to eat.
Time to eat, baby. Time to eat. I want to afford trips to Orlando with my son. Like you're doing right now. I want to afford those trips too. But no, it's a blessing, brother. I mean, it's been a long road, and it's something I've wanted for a while. I passed my pediatric neurosurgery written boards,
awesome,
so I was fired up about that. I got maybe 2 or 3 years before I can submit for my oral boards. Got to get about 125 consecutive cases, and so that's probably that is the next step, is sort of being fully board certified. So that's the next goal. Just like the 2% weight, man. Small steps. That's the next goal on the list.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you enjoy most about pediatric neurosurgery?
Oh man, I love cerebrovascular. So kids with arteriovenous malformations, sickle cell kids who end up having moya, which is essentially just a vascular malformation where the internal carotid artery stops, right? Just sort of comes to an end, comes to a roadblock. And then you have all these collaterals that sort of grow out from that to sort of supply the blood to the rest of the brain. So we can do different procedures like direct or indirect bypasses to vascularize parts of the brain that aren't getting that. And then, as I mentioned, arteriovenous malformation, just a entanglement of vessels and capillaries that can bleed and can really, cause seizures or cause obstruction. Hydrocephalus can cause a lot of dangerous things. And so getting in there, working intricately with these small vessels under a microscope, really precision. I love it, man. Cavernous malformations as well, cav mals. These are also fun cases to do. I also love brain tumors, especially posterior fossa brain tumors. These are excellent. You have kids who come in with palsies, and you're like, okay, all right, what are we gonna do? You see this big, massive posterior fossa brain tumor, and you have to sort of decompress and do everything you can. And the parents are very appreciative that you've done that, so that's awesome. And I think the other part, I mean, I love all of pediatric neurosurgery, but the top 3 for me is fetal surgery too. That's a growing field where we're actually working with maternal fetal medicine docs and general surgeons to operate on a mother while she's pregnant at the 29th week of labor, and going in and closing spina bifida, these backs that are open because of a problem with the neurulation aspect. So you can close their back, and then that limits or reduces their need for a future shunt, ventricular peritoneal shunt, like we talked about, their need for future spine surgery, and it is shown that their ability to walk is improved if you close their back while they're in utero, those awesome. In utero myelo closures. So it's been a fantastic ride, man. And I think pediatric neurosurgeons are probably the last of the generalists, though, because we do everything just within that sort of 0 to 18 age range. But those 3 sort of stand out. I'm fired up about that.
Yeah, awesome, man. What's next for you? And can you talk a little bit about your foundation and kind of things that you got going on outside of the operating room?
Yeah, no, I think one thing that's huge for me is pediatric gun safety, something that matters a lot to me. It's been near and dear to my heart. I've operated on several kids this year who have been victims of accidental, unintentional gunshot wounds. You see that, unfortunately, unintentional injuries and accidents are the leading cause of death in kids. And it's largely driven sometimes by kids who get their hands on firearms of their parents or their siblings in the home that's unsecured. 30 million kids in America right now live in a home that their guns are not secured. And so it's a dangerous sort of situation for them. They either shoot themselves or shoot someone else. And then it's so final when you have a bullet to the head or a bullet to the spine or a bullet to anywhere other organs in the body. It's hard to come back and salvage from that. So I was thinking to myself, man, how can we move this experience from the operating room? Because as much as I do love to operate, how can we go further upstream to try to prevent these issues from happening? And so I'm calling on lawmakers and state officials and policy groups and grassroots organizations and other community influencers to really advocate for new policy, new education, new reformation around pediatric gun safety, not taking guns away from folks here in Florida, but really making sure that we understand how can you safely lock up your firearms, how are you teaching yourself and your kids about the importance of pediatric gun safety, and so we don't have our kids riddled with bullets. I don't care if you're on the left or the right, if you're a pro 2A, anti 2A. At the end of the day, we all want our kids to be safe. And so if we can work towards that collective goal and keep that as a North Star, I think we can make true impact, indelible impact in this field. And so I have a pediatric gun safety walk coming out right here in Orlando in the spring of 2026, partnering with several different communities. We want to make this a public health issue. Just like people talk about opioid addiction as a public health issue, we want people to talk about pediatric gun safety as that as well, especially in a state like Florida. We have Marjorie Stoneman Douglas down in South Florida, Parkland shooting. That was a school shooting. My school, my alma mater, Florida State, just had a mass shooting. Ed Waters, HBCU in Jacksonville, had a mass shooting. University of Florida just has had some mass shootings. It's happened here in this state, and we need to coalesce around this idea that our kids need to have a future. We got to protect it, and if medical providers can lead that charge, then let's do it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Keep up the great work with that.
Thank you.
A couple rapid fire questions for you. What's one book that changed your life?
Oh, man. Gifted Hands. Can I also say the Bible? Sure. I want to say, Gifted Hands and the Bible. Let's do that.
Gotcha. Pre-surgery ritual versus a pre-game ritual. Any similarities?
Prayer, for sure. Listening to soca music. That's my favorite genre of music from the islands. And, that visualization, that mental mindfulness space. Those are pretty similar.
What's more mentally demanding, the NFL or neurosurgical residency?
Mentally demanding, neurosurgical residency. Physically, other way around, baby. Other way.
And then AI. How do you think that will change the future of brain surgery?
I think it's going to change a lot. I mean, Neuralink is something that I think is incredibly impressive, what Elon Musk and other groups are doing. I say right now that our notes that we write in clinic are done through AI. I mean, even if I'm talking to a patient, they can defer or sort of decipher that it's my voice versus the patient's voice and put it all together in a note. That saves so much time.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about clinic, but I'm not a huge fan of it. So I want to cut it down as much time as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think AI is going to be a huge part of our career and medicine. And I've heard this before from one of my mentors. Look, I don't think AI is going to replace us surgeons, but I think it's going to replace surgeons that don't want to use it as well. It's going to be complementary to what we do.
Yeah. Dr. Rolle, I appreciate you joining, man, today, WebbMD Podcast. Your story is one of success and is certainly an inspiration for a lot of people. I mean, some people, when I was going through the years, I kind of compared you to Ben Carson, kind of a new face of Ben Carson and just the face of just neurosurgery, medicine in general, man. You're inspiring so many people. I'm so proud to, have the opportunity to sit down with you and chat with you. Where can people find you in terms of like your website, foundation, and all that? Where can people find you?
I appreciate it, Brother Webb. Thanks for having me on this, man. Like I said, you inspire as well. Seeing your work and what you do is remarkable. I also, as I said, I do like the spine as well. So I like seeing what you do from a professional standpoint. But, it's awesome, brother. I think you're leading the charge and you're doing wonderful work. You just got back from, Europe and, I think spreading the word around the world about what you've done and who you are, what you mean to this space is important. So thanks for having me for sure.
Absolutely.
To find me, rollefoundation.org is our foundation website. I'm all over social media from Instagram to Facebook to X. It's just Myron Rolle or Myron L. Rolle. most of us have a blue check mark on it, baby.
Gotcha.
So it's official, but no, it's a
Yeah.
blessing, man. And then the book is everywhere you will get books. Barnes and Nobles, Books A Million, Amazon. You can get it from there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Great book, 2% Way. Definitely make sure you guys read this. I had my son reading. He hasn't finished yet. I'm going to go get on him about that. But everyone else, thank you for joining today, the WebbMD Podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Dr. Rolle.
Thank you, brother.
it.
Appreciate
Yes,
it,
sir.
baby. Yes, sir.